At such a troubled time, our prophet told the believer alongside him not to be despondent, and reminded him to submit to God. If you do not help him, God did not help him when those who did not believe drove him out, and there were 2 of them in the cave. He said to his companion, "Do not be despondent. God is with us." There can be no doubt that the only reason why our prophet was not afraid and despondent and felt no doubts when his life was endangered was his trust in God and the knowledge that every event created by him is auspicious and full of good. Prophet Moses' struggle with Pharaoh clearly shows how a situation that appears to be in believers' disfavor can, by the will of God, suddenly be turned around. Pharaoh and his army set out to catch Moses and the believers who had fled with him from Egypt. The believers found themselves in front of the sea when they were spotted by Pharaoh. The words of Moses at this point are most striking. Although the sea was in front of Moses, and the army of the Pharaoh behind him, he acted in the trust that help would be forthcoming from God, and thus revealed his superior moral values. So they pursued them towards the east, and when the 2 hosts came into sight of one another, Moses' companion said, "We will surely be overtaken." He said, "Never. My Lord is with me, and he will guide me." One of the finest examples of events that appear to be bad for believers eventually turning out for the best is the life of Prophet Joseph, as described in the Quran. Joseph was tested by a great many difficulties, such as his brothers throwing him down a well and abandoning him there at a young age, being slandered by the wife of the governor in whose house he lived, and thus spending a long time in a dungeon. The way that Joseph interpreted everything auspiciously and his submission to God are revealed in the Quran. Joseph said, "My Lord, you have granted power to me on earth and taught me the true meaning of events. Originator of the heavens and earth, you are my friend in this world and the next. So take me as a Muslim at my death, and join me to the people who are righteous." With his skill, courage, and submission in the face of the traps set for him by the unbelievers, Prophet Abraham is also a role model for believers. The unbelievers decided to respond to Abraham with violence and oppression, and resorted to the terrible cruelty of throwing him into the fire. At first sight, it might seem that Abraham would be burnt and killed by the multitude of unbelievers. But in the same way that death only happens if God so wills it, so fire only has the power to burn if God so wills. God, the creator of all things, commanded the fire to be cool and peaceful for Abraham, and turned the snares of the unbelievers back on their own heads. We said, "Fire, be coolness and peace for Abraham." They desired to trap him, but we made them the losers. Believers must always exhibit a powerful submission to God in the face of troubles by taking the prophets, praised for their moral values and verses, as role models. In fact, all events that one at first imagines to be harmful are in fact tests and work to the benefit of believers. The examples we have given during the course of this film, the way believers look at these events, and the examples from the lives of the prophets, all point to a most important truth. Even though every person may think that he plans his own life, the fact is that he lives within a destiny set out by God. If you cast a brief eye over your own past experiences, you will see that whatever your age, incidents taking place over decades in fact lasted no more than a few minutes. Things that you once considered so important now consist of mere fragments in your memory. Yet every word you have ever spoken during that period of time, your every attitude, and every thought that has ever gone through your mind are all hidden for you in the sight of God. These facts will be fully laid before you after death, which every human being will inevitably have to face. There are only two possibilities facing a person after death. If a person has spent his life according to the moral values desired by God, then he will be rewarded with eternal salvation. If not, then with everlasting suffering. The moral values desired by God consist of a person knowing at every moment that all things come from our Lord, and of giving thanks to Him under all circumstances and in all situations. The duty of a person of good conscience is always to live by the belief that there is goodness in all events. God has imparted these glad tidings to His faithful and patient servants. As for those who believe and do right actions, we will lodge them in lofty chambers in the garden, with rivers flowing under them, remaining in them timelessly, forever. How excellent is the reward of those who act, those who are steadfast and put their trust in their Lord.